Good evening, student. Welcome to today class. Today we will discuss closure scale. We will discuss what is micro teaching. Then we will discuss closure scales. Learning objective of our today lecture: to understand the meaning of micro teaching, to acknowledge the importance of micro teaching, to identify the goal and objective of closure scale. The student will be able to analyze and understand the closure scale. Introduction and closure scale play an important role in teaching. So in previous class we discussed on introduction scale. Today we will discuss on closure scales. First we will discuss what is micro teaching. Dr. Allen and his group evolved micro teaching in 1963 in America. Micro teaching is a technique aiming to prepare teacher candidate to the real classroom setting according to Brent and Thompson 1996. Micro teaching can also defined as a teaching technique especially used in teacher pre-service education to train them systematically by allowing them to experiment mean teacher behavior. By the help of this technique, teacher candidate can experiment and learn each of the teaching skills by breaking them into smaller part without encountering chaotic environment of the crowded classroom or classes. In 1963, micro teaching has become an established teacher training procedure in many university and school districts. This training procedure is gathered toward simplifications of the complexities of regular teaching learning process. Class size, time, task and content are scaled down to provide optimal training environments. This may be live demonstration or a video presentation of the scale. Then the group member select a topic and prepare a lesson of 5 to 10 minutes. The teacher trainee then has the opportunity to practice and evaluate his use of the skills. Practice take the form of a 10-minute micro teaching session in which 5 to 10 pupils are involved. So in micro teaching, time, content, number of students, we can say class size, and tasks are scale down, or we can say we can minimize. What is micro teaching? Teaching of a small unit of content to the small group of a student, 6 to 10 member, in a small amount of time, 5 to 10 minutes, to train inexperienced student teacher for acquiring teaching skills. To improve the skills of experiences teacher. According to Allen D.W., micro teaching is a scaled down teaching encounter in the class size and class time. As and meaning, we already discussed, the time should be 5 to 10 minutes and the class size should be 5 to 10 people in a one class, or we can say in a micro teaching. Is content also scaled down? So next definition of micro teaching, Pasi BK and Lalita MS. Micro teaching is a training technique which require a student teacher to teach single concept using specified teaching scales to number of pupils in short duration time. And micro teaching, at a time, pupil teacher practice uh, on a single uh, teaching skills, or time, short duration time should be 5 to 10 minutes. Micro teaching cycle, we can divide micro teaching cycle in 6 steps. Micro lesson plan, teach, feedback session, replan, reteach another group, and feedback. In micro teaching, immediate feedback uh, given by the expert teacher according to the feedback replan done by the or do by the pupil teacher. So these are the 6 steps. First is micro lesson plan, or second step is teach, generally 5 to 10 minutes allowed to teach on a particular scales, and feedback session 5 minute, feedback given by the expert teacher and the pupil teacher in the class are also allowed to give feedback. In feedback include both type of feedback, positive feedback and negative feedback. Replan 10 minutes, reteach 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, and feedback 5 minutes. Total minute, approximate 30 minutes. This is the micro teaching cycle. As you are watching in my PPT, there is a 6 step. First is plan on a particular teaching skills, then teach, and feedback, then replan according to plan and suggestion given by the expert teacher, replan, then reteach, and then feedback. This process is continuous going on. The arrow shown in my PPT. जब तक कि विद्यार्थी या विद्यार्थी शिक्षक उस पर्टिकुलर स्किल में पर्टिकुलर टीचिंग स्किल में निपुण नहीं हो जाता, तब तक ये फीडबैक सेशन और प्लान रिप्लान चलता है. जनरली इन टीचर्स ट्रेनिंग कॉलेजों में 2 या 3 बार इस तरह का चलता है प्लान. Characteristics of micro teaching. Content is divided into smaller unit. Only one teaching scale is considered at a time. Provision of immediate feedback. In micro teaching cycle, there is a facility of replanning, reteaching, and re-evaluation. It puts the teacher under the microscopes because when people teacher doing the practice on a particular scales, expert teacher watching his activity according to pupil teacher execution of the skill, expert teacher give immediate feedback to the student. All the faults of the teacher are observed. The problem of discipline can also be controlled. Duration of teaching as well as the number of students are less. As we already discussed in meaning of micro teaching, the content, time, number of students, and skills, only one skills, all are scaled down in micro teaching session. The comparison between micro teaching and traditional teaching. In traditional teaching, class consists of 40 to 60 students. In micro teaching, class consists of small group of 6 to 10 students. The teacher practice several at a time. In teaching, teacher use several teaching skills like introduction, stimulus variation, or reinforcement, using audio visual aid, illustration, lot of skills using in traditional teaching at a time. The duration in the micro teaching, the teacher take upon on one scale at a time. The duration in traditional teaching generally is 40 to 45 minutes, but in micro teaching, duration of the time teaching 5 to 7 minutes. In traditional teaching, there is a uh, uh, immediate feedback is not available. In micro teaching, immediate feedback given by the expert teacher. So these are the basic difference between micro teaching and traditional teaching. Teaching skills. What is teaching skills? Teaching is the art of blending knowledge, art, science, and creativity. It it constitutes a number of verbal and non-verbal acts. The set of related behavior or teaching act aiming at specific objectives and perform with an intention to facilitate pupils' learning can be called at teaching skills. Dr. Pasi in 1976 has described the following 13 teaching skills: writing instructional objective, introducing a lesson, fluency in questioning, uh, probing questions, explaining, illustrating with example, stimulus variation, silence and non-verbal cues, reinforcement, increasing pupil participation, using blackboard, achieving closure, recognizing attending behavior. These all 13 teaching skills are suggested by the Dr. Pasi in 1976. Today, we will discuss closure skill. First, we will discuss introduction of closure skill. As a lesson plan is a guide for the teachers to present objectives that a student will accomplish throughout the day. This keep the classroom organized and ensure that all material is covered adequately, that include concluding a lesson plan, a step that many teachers may overlook, especially if they are in a rush. A strong closer, which is the fifth step in writing a strong and effective 8-step lesson plan for elementary school student is the key to classroom success. The objective, anticipatory, set, direct instructions, and guided practice are the first 4 steps, leaving the closer section as a method that provide a fitting conclusion and content for student learning that has taken place. Closer refers to an activity that ends a lesson and create a lasting impression, a phenomena called the Resney effect. What the instruction does to facilitate wrap up at the end of the lesson. It is a quick review to remind student what it was that they have learned and allow you to see where the student are to assist you in planning for the next lesson. The intellectual work should be done by the student, not the instructor, summarizing for the students and telling them what they learn. Closer allow a student to summarize main ideas, evaluate class, uh, process, answer questions posed at the beginning of the lesson, and link to both the past and the future. Closer is an opportunity for formative assessment and help the instructor decide if additional practice is needed, whether you need to reteach, whether you can move onto the next part of the lesson. The role of the closer. Closing can be done one or some combination of the purpose blue. It should be a meaningful end to the lesson. Reviewing the key point of the lesson. Giving student opportunities to draw conclusion for the lesson. Describing when the student can use this new information. Previewing future lesson. Demonstrating students' problem solving process. Exhibiting student learning. Creating a smooth transitions from one lesson to the next lesson. Closer is the step where you wrap up a lesson plan and help a student organize the information in a meaningful content in their minds. This help student better understand what they have learned and provide a way in which they can apply it to the world around them. A strong closure can help student better train information beyond the immediate learning environment. A brief summary or overview is often appropriate. It does not have to be an extensive review. A helpful activity when closing a lesson is to engage a student in a quick discussion about what they learn and what it means to them. Writing an effective closure step. It is not enough to simply say, are there any questions? In the closure section, similarly to the conclusion in a 5-paragraph essay, look for a way to add some insight and or context to the lesson. It should be a meaningful end of the lesson. Example of real world uses can be a great way to illustrate a point, and one example for you can inspire dozen from the class. Look for area of confusion that student might experiences and find a way in which you can quickly clarify them. Reinforce the most important points so that the learning uh, is solidified for future lesson. The closer step is also a chance to do an assessment. You can determine whether student need additional practice or whether you need to go to over the lesson again. It allow you to know that the time is right to move on the next lesson. You can use a closer activity to see what conclusion the student drew from the lesson to ensure they are making the to making the appropriate connection to the materials. They could describe how they can use what they learn in the lesson in another setting. For example, ask student to demonstrate how they would use the information in solving a problem. Ensure that you have a selection of problem ready to use as promotes. Closer can also preview what the student will learn in the next lesson, providing a smooth transition. This helps student make connection between what they learn from day to day. Example of closer. Closer can take a number of forms. For example, for a lesson about plants and animals, tell a student to discuss new things that they have learned about plants and animals. This should produce a lively conversation where students can meet in small group or as an entire classes depending on what is the best for you particular group. Alternatively, ask student to summarize the characteristics of plants and animal and explain how they compare and contrast. Have students write example on the board or in their notebooks. Other possible closer activity includes asking a student what information from the lesson they think they will find important. Hear from now and why. This would work better with upper primary grade student. Using exit tickets, have a student write what they learn as well as any questions they might still have on a slip of paper with their name. As they leave the class, they can place their responses in the bins labeled as to whether they understood the lesson. Need more practice or information or needed more help, you can label these bins stop, go, or proceed with questions. Asking a student to summarize the lesson as they would explain it to a classmate who was absent. Give them a couple of minutes and then either have them run in summarize for you to read or have a few percent their writing to the class. You can also have a student write several you or number of questions, no questions for key points from the lesson, then pose the question to the class for quick thumbs up or thumbs down for each one. These yes no questions will show how will the class understood those points. If there is a confusion, you will know which point of the lesson you need to clarify or reinforce. Teacher use closer to check for understanding and inform subsequent instructions. Emphasizes key information. Tie up loose and correct misunderstandings. Student find closer help for summarizing, reviewing, and demonstrating their understanding of major points. Consolidating and internalizing key information. Linking lesson ideas to a conceptual framework and or previously learned knowledge and transforming idea to new situations. I think you all understand what is closure, what is the use of closure, and how to write effective closure. These are the references you should go through for further more detail of micro teaching and micro teaching skills. Now, time for MCQs. Duration of a lesson and micro lesson plan is option A, 5 to 10 minutes. Option B, 10 to 20 minutes. Option C, 20 to 30 minutes. Option D, 35 to 45 minutes. Next MCQs. To maintain interest among students in the class, a teacher should: option A, discuss with the student. Option B, ask a question from a student. Next MCQs, use blackboard. Option D, tell a story to student. So you have 4 options. Choose appropriate answer. Next MCQs. Micro teaching started in option A, 1960. Option B, 1965. Option C, 1976. Option D, 1978. Choose appropriate answer. We discuss this question answer in our previous slide. Micro teaching focus on the competency over option A, method. Option B, skills. Option C, contents. Option D, none of the above. Choose appropriate answer. You have 4 options. Micro teaching is a option A, teaching training technique. B option, teacher method. C option, motivational technique. D option, none of the above. Next MCQs. What is the number of students in micro teaching? Option A, 5 to 10. Option B, 1 to 5. Option C, 20 to 25 students. Option D, 25 to 30 students. I'm asking micro teaching. So as we discussed, all things are scaled down in micro teaching. So choose appropriate answer. Next MCQs. The attention of the student towards learning the matter start with the filling the blanks. Option A, demonstration lesson. Option B, explanation of the lesson. Option C, blackboard work. Option D, introduction of the lesson. Choose appropriate answer. You have 4 options. Next MCQs. What is the most important while writing on blackboard? Option A, writing in small letter. Option B, clarity in the writing. Option C, good writing. Option D, writing in big letter. Choose appropriate answer, and send me your answer in my comment box. Next MCQ. How much knowledge is gained through the sense of seeing? Option A 75%, option B 13%, option C 6%, option D 3%. Choose appropriate answer. Next MCQs. What is the merit of micro teaching? Option A, feedback help in the improvement of the method of the teaching. Next B option, due to shortage of time, you divide the lesson plan into small units and thus gain mastery over the content. Option C, it help in self-evaluation and teacher pulled up and confidence in them. And next D option, all the above. Choose appropriate answer and send your answer in my comment box as soon as possible. I will reply, I will check your answer and give some suggestion according to your answer. Thank you student. एक बार हम recap कर लेते हैं. Today we'll discuss micro teaching. What is micro teaching? Characteristics of micro teaching, teaching skills and closure. Meaning of closure. What is the use of closure? Role of the closure, how to write effective closure, and last we will solve MCQs.